Children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
The Alien Cosmic Expo will be held in Brantford, Ontario, June 26, 27, 28, and will feature 24 internationally acclaimed experts and researchers of UFOs, crop circles, alien abductions, and much more in this 3-day 2015 summer Canadian event. Experts in the field of extraterrestrials and alien encounters, out-of-body experiences, past life regression, soul reading, psychic, and mediumship will all be presented with professionalism, integrity, and credibility, making the Alien Cosmic Expo the largest event of its kind in Canada for 2015. The exhibitor hall will feature a spectacular lineup of gifted mediums, psychics, astrologers, channelers, aura photography, healers, as well as books, DVDs, alternative health products, crystals, jewelry, and much more, completing the venue with something for everyone. For all information and to purchase your tickets for the Alien Cosmic Expo, go to www.aliencosmicexpo.com. That's www.aliencosmicexpo.com. This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
My name is Michael Telstar, Canada's leading mentalist from Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Splenda, and you're listening to my dad, Ron McConnell, on the X-Zone.
This is Psychic Dorothy from St. Catharines, and you're listening to Rob McConnell.
Hello, my name is Holly Reeves, an astrologer from Astro For You, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X-Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to Hour 2 of the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you around the world on the Starcom Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't forget, X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to change the way that you listen to radio, if you'd like to know what real radio sounds like during the day, check out my good friend Ed Till's radio show on Starcom, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. That's the Ed Till Show. And the X-Zone is live on Starcom Monday through Friday starting at 8 o'clock. The website, StarcomRadioNetwork.com. Before we get to my next guest, I'd like to say hello to a number of new affiliates here on the X-Zone through Starcom. WGRL in Fond du Lac in Wisconsin, KLAE in Marshland, Oregon, KMAZ in Nevada, KKGO in Minnesota, WRUB in Illinois, KZAB in Washington, WGTM in Tennessee, WANF in Moores, New York, KPPA in Missouri, KKRP in Cowlington, Oklahoma, KHXI in Cowlington, Oklahoma, KPEA in Pato, Oklahoma, KTAH in Francis, Utah, KLJS in Eureka, Montana, WPAF in Eden, Wisconsin, KABH in Moyne, Indiana. Let me see. WNIT in Wisconsin, KQBN in Prescott, Iowa. Or is that Indiana? WDRQ in Ohio, KBBN in Franklin, Colorado, and WMIT in Harbor City, Michigan. Welcome to the X-Zone Nation, and welcome to everyone who's listening to us on the Starcom Radio Network. UFOs, things that go bump in the night, dowsing, alien abductions, and much more will be discussed at length at the event of the year that is going to set a high standard for any other alien or UFO expo ever. I'm telling you, Exonation, 24 of the world's top echelon, as you've heard throughout this week. Speakers are going to be at the Alien Cosmic Expo, June 26, 27, 28 in Brantford, Ontario. For more information, visit their website at www.aliencosmicexpo.com. In fact, my guest this hour is going to be there. His name is Serge Joseph Grandbois. He began channeling nearly 35 years ago and has since built a reputation that has attracted clients from all over the world. Chris has always shown a deep consciousness for human condition and enjoys such enjoyment in providing information, sharing of tools and resources innate to our deepest spiritual nature, assisting people from all walks of life to awaken to their highest potential. Now, at the Alien Cosmic Expo, he will be presenting Multidimensional Travelers and the Human Experience. Joining me now is Serge. And Serge, welcome to the X-Zone.
Hi, and thank you very much for having me.
Serge,
it's a pleasure being online.
Oh, it's great having you with us, Serge. But I'm a little mixed up here. Who is Chris?
Chris is a name I gave a long time ago to the personality that I give voice to, or that speaks through me when I go into this trance or altered state.
Now,
I used to spell it CHRIS.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of the groups I had way back in Ottawa, somebody said, "Oh, he sounds so much like our Lord Jesus Christ." I immediately changed the spelling. I didn't want that tag on me.
In fact,
that's quite big shoes to fill, and I can't walk on water.
Well, I can. I usually do it in the wintertime when the river is frozen over, but you're from where originally? Your name, Serge?
Originally, yes. Originally, I was born on the south shore of Montreal, a little town called St. Hubert now. It was named differently back then.
Well, let me see, St. Hubert.
We grew up... Pardon?
Did you say St. Hubert?
Yes.
Well, I've got to tell you something, my friend. I grew up in Chambly.
It's right next door almost.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a small world. It's a very small world.
Yeah,
Savage.
It really is. Yeah. In fact, I was had an interesting birth in my grandmother's living room. She happened to be the midwife, and I was stillborn, and she would not take that.
Oh God!
She revived me and sent me on my way. So when I was a little bit older, we moved to Montreal itself, and then when I was 8, we moved to Ottawa, where I grew up, and then I moved to Toronto in 98.
Wow. It's a very small world, and I'm finding more and more people that, they say, where are you from originally? Are you from Toronto? Are you from Hamilton? Are you from Niagara? And I say, well, I'm from a small town called Chambly. And they say, you've got to be kidding. I grew up in Longueuil or McMasterville or Saint Bruno, and it's like old home time. It's great. So tell me, Serge. You see, I know you're from Quebec now, so I call you Serge. not SERGE.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I've been called many other things that I won't mention on the air.
You and me both. That's another show. Where did your interest come from? How did you first start channeling Chris?
Well, the interest goes way back. I remember when I was very young, maybe 10, 12 years old, standing at the corner for the light to change. I think I was on my way to work, and all of a sudden I started looking up at the adults around me waiting to also cross the street and wondering what kind of things they thought, what made them do the things they do and even think the things they thought. And then thinking to myself, well, that's a little too much for me. I'm too young for that stuff. And then, just going on my way. But I quickly realized that, what was before me, like the world that I was seeing and that was presented to me, there had to be something more to it than that. And I remember watching some kind of a documentary on Mahatma Gandhi. And during the documentary, there was mention of karma and reincarnation and, all meditation and all those yoga, all of that stuff. And I thought, wow, that's interesting stuff. That interests me. Now there's some of the answers that I was asking, like, is there more than the world I see around me? And because I grew up in a very typical dysfunctional Roman Catholic family. And yes, a cough after that. And then shortly after that, I was at the public library, which to me was more interesting than going to the school.
Oh, big time.
And I came across a book titled Youth, Yoga, and Reincarnation by Jess Stearns. And, well, these are things that I heard about in the movie about Mahatma Gandhi, meditation, yoga, and stuff like that. So I started reading that, and Jess Stearns mentioned Edgar Casey. So from there I went and I read as much as I could that was available at that time about and from Edgar Casey, and I was totally fascinated. I was about 14 at that time. And, in school when they ask you, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I knew what I wanted to be, but I knew also this is not something you talk about in the classroom. I want to be a medium channeler. They would have probably sent me to the drink, or sent the priest after me.
Oh, the priest is more likely than enough, because coming from a Roman Catholic, coming from a Roman Catholic family, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
So I knew I wanted to do something like that. So fast forward many years, about 35 years ago, I started actively now searching stuff out. And somebody had mentioned to me of a lady who supposedly did something like Edgar Casey in the States. So I wrote to her, and she wrote back. She sent me a questionnaire, something like a dozen pages of questions that were all about, where's Jesus Christ my Savior? Did I accept him? Blah, blah, blah. And I tossed that in the garbage, said, if that's what's about, I don't want anything to do with that.
Right.
So I waited, and then somebody sent me to a couple in Picton, Ontario, who did, the lady was psychic. And actually I thought she was pretty good. She picked up on things that I knew nobody else knew about, as far as I was concerned, and some of my interest. And they invited us. I went down with a friend of mine who was driving, and they invited us to stay for the evening. They had a program going on where a friend of theirs had been practicing, to go into trance like Edgar Casey, and he was ready to do his very first public evening. There was about a dozen people there, including myself and my friend, and his name was Rick Thurston. He's passed away now. And when Rick went into trance, I started having some very strange feelings and things going on inside of me. And I recognized that I was also slipping into trance. And I knew, therefore, there was something going on that I needed to explore. And Rick and some of his friends were offering a workshop to develop the similar skills. So we took it. And I practiced every day for a month. And just as I was going to wrap it up because I felt nothing was happening, my friend convinced me, let's try it one more time. And to my great surprise, I had a very strange feeling occur, as if I was slipping away in a sleep. And I figured about 15, 20 minutes later, I suddenly became aware there was somebody else talking in the room, but I didn't remember anybody else coming into the room. And then I realized that voice is coming from me. And it was very different from the way I talk. Mm-hmm. And so that snapped me out of the trance. So my friend was laughing. He said it worked. And so then we kept that up for a while until I could hold the trance state for approximately an hour. And did that for a couple of years in the Edgar Cayce style, where you need to recline and somebody counts you down into a trance. Mm-hmm. And one evening after we saw some friends who wanted to have a discussion with the source, we were finished. We were, laughing and chatting about some things. And I recognized once again, there's that feeling that nobody's guiding me into a trance. But I'm sitting instead of lying down, and everybody's talking, and I'm slipping into a trance. So these things do not ever frighten me. I just let them happen. And again, about 15 odd minutes later, I recognized there was a different voice conversing with the people in the room, and it was coming from me. So I got out of the trance, and then I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing, because this time nobody guided me down into a trance. I wasn't lying down, and I could control it to a certain degree, not needing somebody else. And so I let that happen for some time, mm-hmm. and eventually the voice and the personality morphed into the entity or the essence that speaks through me now. So there was a long beginning, but sometime back, Chris explained that because where I was coming from, my only references were Edgar Cayce, I knew of nothing else. He sort of needed to work with what I had at that time and gradually wean me off that and into what I do now, which is, to me, it's very practical. I've done it in cars and restaurants and planes. It's very practical. And
is it spontaneous?
I just have to take a few deep breaths and I can go right into it.
Wow. What have been some of the most, I don't want to use the word strange, but some of the most fascinating channeled messages that you've received from the other side, from Chris, to relay to somebody who has sought Chris to help them better understand a situation or just to ask a general question?
Well, right off the top of my head, there's a situation that comes up, and it involves a friend of mine who has passed away now. She passed away a year ago.
I'm sorry.
She was from the East Coast, mm-hmm. and I was hosting a conference in Ottawa in October '87, and her friend came down, and her friend was very interested and curious about what Chris had to say. Mm-hmm. So, she had a session, and in it, Chris described a past life of hers where she was from a very, very impoverished family, and she was, as a young girl, she was friends with another family, the kids from another family that lived in just an adjacent neighborhood, but her friends were more affluent and had better means to raise their own kids, and that her friend's parents eventually approached her own family to see if they would be willing to lessen their burden and they would take care of the daughter and raise her and provide for her in a way that her present family could not. Because from Chris's point of view, he said that they were quite impoverished.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I remember. After the session, she was in tears, and she explained to me, she says, I know that you don't know me from a hole in the ground. You've never met me before, the hour. And I will tell you this, what Chris described as my past life is exactly what happened in this lifetime to me. When I was a little girl growing up in the east of Canada, my parents and my family were very, very poor, and I had a friend who was Jewish, and her family were just around the neighborhood, but they were better off, and they offered to adopt me. And that way I was able to be raised with in a situation that was more conducive to a better education and so on and so forth. And she said, I'm just blown away. How did he know that? That's one of them that comes to my mind.
When you're out at an airport, or if you're shopping downtown Ottawa, or if you're going back home to St. Hubert, does Chris ever kind of pop in out of nowhere and say, hey, listen, Serge, you see that lady over there? You have to tell her this. Has that ever happened?
Not in those terms.
Okay.
He will strictly contain things to when it's a one-on-one with somebody, and not specifically out walking in the street. Mm-hmm. But there are times when, let's say I was at a cafeteria and, buying my own meal, and I would get a very strong urge from him to tell the cashier, look, I'm giving you an extra $15. There's a person down the line who cannot afford a meal. This is to pay for their meal.
You're a real nice man.
That's happened a few times. Just little things like that.
Little things like that mean big things to a lot of people. For example, that person that you bought lunch for probably meant the world to them. So my hat is off to you, my friend.
I like to have an open heart. I know what it was like growing up in a very, very difficult situation, and I know there are other people that also go through things like that in life, whether they're children or adults, and if there's a need for it, I do like to help.
How long have you been channeling Chris now?
Anywhere between 33 and 35 years.
My goodness. And how many readings or sessions do you estimate you've done over those years?
My goodness.
That many?
Thousands, yeah.
Wow.
Both in terms of private readings and also group sessions, providing information, also delivering material for a book. So it's quite a lot. And Chris loves to talk.
Really?
More so than me. And I'm French-Canadian.
Oh, my goodness. And you're Catholic on top of that.
Well, I was.
You were, okay. Is there anything Chris would like to tell the X-Zone Nation tonight?
Yes. Not that he's chomping at the bit, but if you'll have to give me a minute.
Why don't we do this? I'm going to do a few commercials. Okay. When we come back, let's see what Chris would like to share with the X-Zone Nation. Serge Joseph Granbois, my guest of this evening, X-Zone Nation. His website is www.lotus-mind.ca, and he's going to be at the Alien Cosmic Expo, June 26, 27, 28. He's going to be talking about multidimensional travelers and the human experience. For more information about the Alien Cosmic Expo, visit their website at www.aliencosmicexpo.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Monday through Friday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Starcom Radio Network. We'll be back on the other side of the short break. Don't go away. In the world today, most people want what is called the American dream. They want love, a family, a fancy car, and a nice home in a nice neighborhood. They also want a good job and money to travel to interesting places. Life is great because they have the American dream. But what happens to this dream if they hear they have a devastating illness like lung cancer? The doctor may tell them they need treatment immediately or they will be dead in 6 months. He tells them you need surgery and then you need chemotherapy to get better. When they get home, they think of many unanswered questions. They ask themselves, will I survive when so many of my friends with cancer have died? How will I deal with the pain, hair loss, nausea and vomiting, sore mouth and other side effects of chemotherapy and pain of surgery? Will I be able to keep on working? What will happen to my family? Then they look at the internet and wonder, is there a better way to deal with lung cancer and return to my American dream? Carl Helvey can tell you yes, there is a better way. Carl Helvey is a registered nurse with a doctorate in public health and a 38-year lung cancer survivor. Carl was given 6 months to live when diagnosed, and he refused chemotherapy and surgery. Carl used alternative interventions. Those not only helped him overcome lung cancer, but also to remain cancer-free and healthy for over the past 36 years since recovery. In his book, You Can Beat Cancer Using Alternative Integrative Interventions, Dr. Helvey will tell you his story of using all-natural treatments for lung cancer and continuing to work during his treatment. Free of pain and discomfort, Carl will also share how he remained cancer and disease-free since then without chronic illnesses or prescribed medications. His story is supplemented with chapters by Dr. Bernie Siegel, Dr. Francesco Contreras, and Dr. James Forsyth, alternative integrative physicians, and Dr. Kim Dalzell and Tanya Harder-Pierce, health professionals. All have successfully helped others overcome cancer. Research presented by the alternative physicians on their treatments for lung cancer demonstrate a significantly higher long-term survival rate for lung cancer clients than those obtained by conventional doctors. In addition, their clients were free of or had reduced side effects. You Can Beat Lung Cancer Using Alternative Integrative Interventions by Dr. Carl Helvey is now available at all major book outlets and at www.beatlungcancer.net. That's www.beatlungcancer.net. This information may help you return to the American dream. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyard in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us around the world on the Starcom Radio Network. Don't forget my buddy Ed Till's show, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. on Starcom, and the Real Music Weekend on Starcom, and, of course, the X Zone, Monday through Friday. Let me see, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. Serge Gadbois is our special guest this hour, Exonation. His website is www.lotus-mind.ca. And who do I have now? Do I have Serge or do I have Chris?
You have Serge right now.
Oh, okay.
And Chris is just making his way in, I guess.
What does it feel like when Chris makes his presence known to you?
The best way I can describe it is an experience I had as a child, which was a dissociative experience, and I had that probably around the age of 6 or 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And the best way I can describe it is, as a child, when your favorite aunt, uncle, or grandparents are visiting, you want to be there, you want to be with them, but at a certain point, your curfew comes on.
Yeah.
You got to go to bed. So, you're tucked into bed, but you really want to be there, so you may strain to listen to the conversations. And eventually, that strain, you're really trying to focus on what's being said so you can hear their words. And at the same time, you're unfocusing from everything else around you. So you sort of experience a bit of an altered state at that time. And to me, it's very similar to that. It's like I am being pulled away from my physical environment and I'm going into a deep psychological environment. And after a few deep breaths, then Chris just kind of takes over. I've been doing this for a very long time, so it's fairly fast for me. I remember one time somebody accused me of being a total fraud because I didn't take the 10 minutes of heavy breathing and prayers that occurs sometimes with some people. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? So I know it was just a strange situation. So anyways, just I'll go into that right now.
Sure.
Now we trust that you are comfortable, and we thank you for your consideration, to you and all your network affiliates.
Well, Chris, thank you very much. Welcome to the X Zone. Chris, I'd like to ask you a question, if I may.
Indeed.
How do you find the answers to the questions that different people pose to you? Where do you get the information from, and how do you find it so fast?
Yeah, mostly interesting inquiry. Now, just moments before your commercial interlude, you suggested to dare to think differently. Correct?
Correct.
Indeed. A great many people would certainly benefit greatly from thinking, first of all, and secondly, in a most loving way, not only to think differently, but to find alternatives to thinking outside the box. Because outside the box still concerns the box. You have to think within the parameters of the consensus that you grew up in. Correct?
Correct.
So we are not encumbered by that particular set of consensus paradigms. If you pretend for a moment that you are climbing up a mountain, at a certain point you look back and you see the village not far below, the valley, the route. And as you continue to climb, you begin to see other valleys, other villages, perhaps even other mountains. And as you continue to climb to the top of the mountain, you may see even a range of mountains with numerous valleys and so many, many different villages and even cities of all sizes, with roadways and paths all over the place, lakes and rivers, perhaps even an ocean. So it all depends on the particular platform and perspective, altering your perception each time. So we have had a number of human experiences and other humanoid experiences, building up a repertoire of a variety of paradigms, perspectives, perceptions that also enable us to communicate in some ways with the core of your being. There are some people who enjoy hearing what they want to hear, but there are times when they may need to hear something they do not want to hear, especially if they are experiencing roadblocks, definite barriers to their own sense of worth, their self-worth, their own evolution, and so on and so forth. So we have this combined group of perceptions that can be tapped into, along with the individual's own higher perceptions, giving them information, hopefully triggering releases of blockages so that they can then acquire their own insights and consider for themselves that they are truly the masters of their fate, and that they do not depend nor need to depend upon anyone else but their own inner guidance. Does that answer your inquiry?
It does. Tell me, Chris, was there a time that you walked the earth in a body?
Indeed, we have had many different focuses in that way.
I detect, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I detect, it sounds as if you, at one time, based on the accent I'm picking up, lived or existed in Switzerland. Am I correct?
The accent you are detecting we refer to as rather cosmopolitan. It is a blending of various focuses or human experiences we have had, as well as tapping into the data banks of Joseph, the friend we speak through.
Oh, I see.
So it is a blend of different perspectives.
When was the last time you were a human on this plane of existence?
In your terms, you could say that Joseph is such an expression of our own self.
I see.
But in other terms, the most vivid and powerful was as an lady during the slave or enslavement period that led up to the American Civil War. At that time, we had many children. Mm-hmm. We were the mother. And it is always, in some ways, a mother's dream that at least one of the children receive the best education possible. At that particular time, the youngest of my children did manage to communicate and get in touch with a white man who was a teacher and who was against slavery in the South. And he made arrangements to teach my son to read and write and to give him at least basic education so he could help his family and his siblings. Now, we were fortunate at a particular lifetime to actually escape the South, heading to the northern states. At one point, at our destination of shelter, we received word that my child would be coming to join us. So as we were waiting on the hillside, we could see the train come, and we noticed trouble brewing. There were men on horseback chasing the train and getting on the train. And their purpose was to hunt my son because he was more or less an escaped slave.
Wow.
And they did manage to get to board the train, find him, and since he put up some resistance, they shot him and killed him. And they made their escape as the train continued to approach the hillside and the station we had taken shelter at. So that particular woman took this in a very deep manner, which eventually led to her giving up her own life, since she could not deal with the loss of her youngest child. So it was a very powerful experience to undergo such processes. There is a deep understanding and appreciation for any mother anywhere in the world, not just those who may have lost their child, but for all mothers.
Chris, there's a lot
Do you follow?
I certainly do, and I feel the sorrow in the story that you're relaying to us. But because of time restraints, Chris, I'd like to ask you if you have any message for the worldwide audience of the X-Zone radio show on the Starcom radio network.
Indeed. The topic of our presentation at the conference in June are interdimensional travelers and the human experience. And you entice your listeners to think outside the box. Then indeed, do go and think outside even the framework of a box, and understand that your realities have been visited by interdimensional travelers since the beginning of time as you understand it. We have a different view of time, But there have been visitors in many different ways, some physical and some that only can travel through the dimensions and the corridors that are available through dream states, also perceived by shamans. So they can communicate with some of these beings that are often referred to as divine beings or gods. Some of these shamanistic contacts were then attempted to represent through wall art, stone art, wall paintings in ancient caves around the world. Some of the physical visitors have imparted knowledge, mostly in the area of education, endowing and enabling a growth of consciousness. Teachers and speakers of great depth who have come and still do come once in a while to share information with you and with others. Some of them can be perceived through particular dream states, especially those dream states when an individual finds himself or herself in a large auditorium-like environment where there may be other people, or in intimate places where there's a great deal of information imparted, not specifically through words, but sometimes through touch or through particular vibrations and objects. If you allow yourselves to think in those terms and to recall your dreams, you may indeed accelerate your own growth and evolution. The knowledge is available. The tools are available. Make use of them. Leave behind your warmongering. Leave behind your divisions and duplicities and unite with the universe.
Chris, I want to thank you so much for sharing with us tonight here. And I look forward to further communications with you in the future. So thank you very much.
Indeed, and we are most thankful for your consideration.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, could I please now speak to Serge?
Hey, Rob, how are you?
I'm fine. That was awesome. That was awesome. You know, when Chris was talking, he reminded me, or the way he talked reminded me of a good friend who I had many years ago who's passed on to the other side, who was from Switzerland. And I asked Chris if in a previous life or a previous incarnation, if he had been from the Swiss region, and he was telling me that the voice I was hearing was the voice of the cosmos. Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. How do you feel after you channel? Are you tired? Are you wiped out?
No, I am never. I have heard other people say that, you know, they get wiped out afterwards, but I never experienced that. In fact, I do have to limit the time that I do it and how often I do it during a day, and especially not too late in the evening, because to me it's like getting a cup of coffee.
Wow. So it just perks you right up and away you go.
Yep.
When you're opening yourself up to Chris, is there ever the danger that someone else or some other entity might enter? And if so, how do you...
Not in the way, I understand that, and not in the way that you specifically mention it. But Chris has introduced other essences or entities. One group of them recently, we call them the mystics, and he suggested, like, if you think of a tree, the source is the trunk and the roots, and then the trunk eventually creates some major branches and then secondary branches, and then you have the small branches and smaller branches still that end up in leaves. So Chris considers himself one big branch, but he's introduced these mystics as being a major trunk, like a big branch attached to the source.
Like the tree of life.
Something like that, yeah. And their perspective, it takes a bit longer to verbalize for them. It's as if they're coming from very, very, very far away. And when I access them, to me it feels massive, like a massive, almost like another cosmos coming in. And their perspective is pretty neat.
You know, I gave Chris the opportunity of sharing with the X-Zone Nation. Now I'm giving you the same opportunity as Serge. What would you like to share with the X-Zone Nation tonight?
Oh, wow. I guess always look for those little things in life and during the daytime that show you that there's a connection to larger things going on, like little synchronicities or coincidences. If you look for them, they start showing up, and they basically open the door to that larger consciousness we're all seeking, even if it's just a trickle, but it has to come in somewhere. And for me personally, always show kindness, even to people you don't know, because very often you don't know what they've been through.
Serge, this hour has gone by so fast, my friend. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I'm so happy that you're from St. Hubert. I'm from Chambly. When we meet in Brantford, Ontario, on June 26, 27, 28, we'll have to sit down and reminisce about the old days.
Yes, and we can talk Canadien.
C'est ça, mon ami. You know what? I did that one night. I had somebody on from Montreal, and we did the first 15 minutes in French. Nobody knew what we were doing, and it caused a bit of a ruckus, so I had to promise the affiliates that I wouldn't do that again. But once again, I want to thank you so much, Serge, and please let our listeners know how they can find out about you and how they can actually book. Do you do online sessions with Chris?
Yes, the majority of sessions are on Skype.
Okay, so all they do is they go to your website at lotus-mind.ca and make the arrangements there?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, everything is there explained and available to them, and they can, follow the steps that are there, and then communicate with me, and then we'll set up that time for the conversation.
Chris, Serge, thank you very much. Please thank Chris again for me, and I look forward to meeting you at the Alien Cosmic Expo in Brantford, Ontario, June 26, 27, 28. Until then, my friend,
Great.
Au revoir.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye-bye now. Good night. Serge Joseph Grandbois has been my guest this hour. His website is lotus-mind.ca. I'll be back on the other side of this short commercial break at the top of the hour as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and heard around the world and the great beyond on the Starcom Radio Network. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com.
Science Officer Spock, and currently there are no life forms available to take your call. But at the prearranged audio signal, please feel free to leave any verbal communication you feel is necessary. Live long and prosper.
Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com. Or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.